And if you'll introduce yourself, you may proceed.
Thank you. I'm Bryan Hoffman. I'm the Executive Director of the Lebanon County Housing and Redevelopment Authority, and I'm here today to talk about the HOME program. HOME is a federal program that provides assistance for the development of housing or the support of housing for low and moderate income individuals. The county typically applies for a HOME grant approximately every 2 years. The existing grant will expire in May of 2022. So it is time that we consider submitting a new grant. We have approximately $300,000 of the existing grant that remains to be spent. Now we have about $500,000 that we call program income, which is money that was repaid from previous grantees who received mortgage assistance. If we do not have an open grant, the state will recapture all that money. So it is absolutely essential that we apply every 2 years for a new HOME grant. Because the homebuyer program, which is what the current grant is funding, excuse me, has encountered some difficulties, as you might expect. COVID certainly reduced the turnovers in properties, and now we have the escalation of the housing market, which makes it much more difficult for the low and moderate income homebuyers to find a home, as you would all expect. We have chosen not to apply this year for a first-time homebuyer grant. We would like to apply to use the home money to renovate a property in Cleona, the old Lebanon Mutual Insurance Company building at 137 West Penn Avenue. Our nonprofit, in conjunction with another nonprofit, acquired that building in January of 2020, and our plan is to convert the first floor of it into 6 affordable apartments. So we have and will put in, between the two nonprofits, approximately $700,000. We believe it's going to cost around $1.3 million for the full project. So we would like to apply for approximately $600,000 to the state in home money. Renovation of buildings to create affordable apartments is an allowable use under home. Typically, the application we have been putting in over the last number of years is in the range of roughly $600,000. So that's pretty much in line with what we've been asking the state. I've talked to DCED at the state, and they feel very favorably that that is a very valid use of home dollars. So that's what we would recommend. The applications are due August the 30th at the state. So yeah, time frame's a little short.
Any comments, or do we have any discussion that we need from Marlon?
I took time. I wanted to see the building. I pass it so often there, Lebanon Mutual Insurance, and wanted to see what it looked like inside. I had never been inside the building, and I couldn't believe how huge it was. And I see Bryan was able to explain a lot of things about the apartments, and that they're going to add an elevator, and their offices upstairs haven't been touched, and they're just wonderful, walk-in kind of thing. There's extra equipment there. I guess if the county has need of any, maybe you and Jamie should talk, or Danielle.
The insurance company, when we purchased the building, left virtually all the furniture for our use, and Commissioner Litz is right. There are all those office, cubicles, you want to call them, that there. The other thing we plan to do, which is not directly relevant to home, because you can't use the home dollars for that, but the building has a full basement, and we're going to turn that into a auxiliary food bank for the carrying company in Palmyra. It won't be as large as their primary site, but it'll be an area where residents of that area of Cleona can come who have the need of assistance with food. I really think it's a great project. It's a great building. It's in a great location. It's convenient to everything. It preserves an existing building. It's not new construction. We're not disturbing any existing land. And I think we make great reuse of an existing structure in a great location.
And you're able to help out the redevelopment authority so they can cut their expenses because their funding has been on the low side. That's
right. We brought the redevelopment authority into the office part of that building, which helped eliminate a separate office that they have, and that helped. We reduced a lot of their overhead costs. Because, as you say, funding, as everybody knows, in almost all government programs, funding has been more and more restricted over the years. So, yeah, I think it's just a great synergy of a lot of things.
Well, the one synergy question I have is, what do you do with the buildings you vacated?
Well, the only building we really vacated was the Redevelopment Authority's office on 10th Street. And we're going to turn that back into a single-family home. and rent it out to a low-income family.
Okay, what about the old cable building?
What we did, all of our existing, what we call client services, which are the people who do the applications, screen you for tenancy, do your annual recertification, they had for years I use this term, they were crammed into the old community building at Webster Manor.
Yes.
So we moved them into the old cable building on Mifflin Street.
Yep.
We had renovated that, it's handicap accessible, again, right on the bus route. It is the ideal location, excuse me, for their clients to come and do all that. Because ultimately, we're gonna have to, this gets off, excuse me, on another subject. There's a new HUD program called RAD. It changes the way public housing operates, and ultimately, we're gonna have to do that with our public housing developments. And in that scenario, we would not be able to use that office building for the things we were before.
I just didn't know if coming back on the tax rolls was in the future, but apparently not. For those two properties that you vacated.
Well, the 137 West Penn Avenue, that is on the tax rolls.
No, the one on 12th Street and then the Mifflin.
12th Street will come back on.
Will it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it'll just be a single-family home that will run out.
Okay, good.
I just want to say thank you, Brian. You're the right man. I know you're looking at retirement, but you're the right man there to get this all consolidated and lead Lebanon County through this crisis we've been going through with housing. 6 additional units is going to be wonderful, plus the one on 12th Street.
Well, we also have plans to do another development in Palmyra. It's very early in the development stage, and that's going to be build a new food bank for the carrying cover, which will also include community space. Not a huge amount of space, but meeting rooms for groups, the Girl Scouts, any other community group, and then that will have 12 affordable apartments on the 2nd floor. And that should be ready in 2023, I'm guessing, somewhere in that general time frame. And we're also looking at another potential project in Palmyra to renovate an old factory building. So we have a number of potential projects in the pipeline, because you're right, Joe, and we have to address the housing issue. Right now, on the Section 8 waiting list for residents in Lebanon County, there's over 3,300 names right now. That's how bad the wait has been.
And so you take that and the cost per unit being so high, really, I mean, that's, we just went through this with community homes, with their tiny homes project, and it just really is quite amazing to me as lay people how it drives the price up when you're doing it through governmental entities, you know, that get to 200,000+ per unit till you qualify everything properly, and for the poorest of the poor that we're trying to help, you know. Lay people would look at that and say, gee, we could have 3 or 4 units for that kind of money in a private sector world, but I get it. I'm not going to go down that.
No, I was just saying to you, though, you are right. Using government money obviously increases costs. But I will be candid with you at the building work in Cleona. If we had purchased that building using conventional bank financing, even with historically low interest rates, and we did not use any government money, we just did private construction using, I'll call, builder grade finishes, I mean just very basic, apartments. But then I have the cost by code, I have to put a sprinkler system in the building, I have to meet handicap accessibility, and all those things which are very good, I mean they serve public purposes. But even at that, I would have to charge at least $1,000 a month rent just to break even, no profit. That's where, you're right, but that's where you're at just with plain old construction costs today. It is almost impossible without some kind of a write-down in some way to produce apartments that are affordable to people. Particularly now, you all know what's happened to the price of construction materials. So.
But I think it's also worth noting that you got the building for half the listing price.
Yes.
In today's market, when everything's escalating, that was a real deal.
The insurance company who we bought it from was very supportive of what we ultimately planned to do with it, and they sold it to us at a considerable discount, and they also left, as I say, all the furnishings, and they also have indicated they would be willing to make a donation towards the cost of creating the food bank in the basement.
Wow, that's great.
The only other thing I just want to bring up while I'm here, for the existing home program, for the first-time homebuyer program, we've had a great deal of difficulty in qualifying clients, again, escalating cost of housing, and we have locally created some artificial impediments to the program in the sense of we have imposed significantly lower limits on the price of homes that people can buy. And I'm not actually sure you need to approve this because it was a program-imposed restriction, but I plan just to remove the restrictions and allow people to purchase homes based on the home limits, which still obviously creates significant limits. But as we stand now, I mean, right now today I could tell you I have 2 couples, young couples with a couple of children who've been looking that would be eligible, and we can't help them because our limit on the cost of purchase is just too low. Yep, too low. So I'm just gonna remove those caps unless you have an objection.
Were they imposed by the board?
I don't believe so. I think it's imposed by the redevelopment authority.
First,
We just always, told you this is what we want to do. I don't know if we really need a motion.
Well, if they're imposed by this board, then.
I don't know.
Then they
I really
ought to
don't
take
know
action.
if they ever were, or it was just the REIT authority and Betsy just sort of self-imposed them.
Well, we can do that, if, as in a sense of caution, we can do it, but
Mhm.
we should take care of the first part first. How's that?
Okay, fine.
So the first motion is to move forward with the applying for a home grant for 600,000, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, make that motion.
And I'll second the motion for the Cleona property.
Okay, questions? Comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, so moved. Now, Jamie, do you feel out of a sense of caution, we should,
Yeah, I mean, obviously go back and find out how they were put on, but then we'd have to come back and do it anyway, so.
Maybe a motion just to remove any locally imposed limits for the first-time homebuyer program and utilize the limits imposed by the state.
I'd like to make a motion in support of removing the locally imposed limits on purchases for first-time home buyers.
Second motion.
but not to exceed the guidelines. of the
Right, not to
state.
exceed the maximum guideline.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? Going once. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, so ordered. Brian, does that conclude your business?
That is it.
All
Unless you
right.
guys have other questions for me.
No, thank you again.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Job well
Thank you.
done.
I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Anybody else out there, Janine?
No.
Good. All right, you may